Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Pressing Matters. I have today with me a very special guest. But before I introduce him to you, I just want to say please do subscribe to our channel on YouTube. Please follow us on social media. You know the deal. It's not easy doing what we do with having full time jobs and everything, but we do it to make sure that we can cover and promote football, MMA, and everything else that we do. So do support us and follow us on social media. We have with us Waheed Ramzan, who is currently working with the Leicester under 18s and is a UEFA B license coach working in the UK. He has his own coaching set up as well. We're going to discuss everything football with him and everything that he's done and is doing currently. But firstly, Waheed, thank you so much for being on the show. How are you doing? How's everything?
Yeah, alhamdulillah, very well, thank you. I thank you for having me. Actually, it's
No, it's my pleasure.
I've been following your work for a long time, and I even with your Twitter and things, I'm really engaged by it, and it's good to see the work you do. I think it's very important for Pakistan in terms of pushing football.
I'm humbled, man. We're all just trying to do our best. But yeah, I think what people in Pakistan really want to know is how is it working for Leicester City? How has that been for you?
Um, it's the dream. It's definitely been the dream. Um, I think I realized quite young I probably wasn't good enough to play as much as I had the dream of wanting to be a professional footballer. Um, very quickly, I sort of started getting into my coaching things at quite a young age. Um, but the dream would have been to be in a professional academy, a Premier League club. So yeah, alhamdulillah, I'm very blessed, very fortunate to have that opportunity. How is it? Very busy, very hectic. Um, Facilities are incredible. The people are great. You learn so much. People come from all over to work there, and it's great because it gives you such a vast sort of um, set of experiences and qualities to learn from. So yeah, it's been
That's awesome.
an
And
amazing journey.
is their academy set up this with the rest of the training facility? Is it merged together? Like for example, Liverpool first had them like on in different places, so Melwood and Kirby were different. Now then they combined it together, so the first team and the academy uh, all trained on in the same area. So is it the same for Leicester, or are they separate?
Yeah, it's always been the same. They moved to a new facility 2 years ago called Seagrave. Um, but yeah, we're all together. So there's separate entrances for the first team and the academy, but we share the same canteen, certain areas, and their training pitches are just next to our training pitches. So my first day in work, I met Emil Heskey, who I coach with now in the under 18s. Emil works in the 18s and the 21s, as well as with the women's. So he sort of has a variety of roles across the club. But probably one of the first people I saw when I got into the car park was Emil Heskey, and then obviously I ended up finding out I was going to be doing a session with him that day, which was pretty cool. Um, but yeah, I've probably met most of the first team now as we just sort of exchange and meet each other in the canteen area. So yeah,
Oh,
it's all merged.
yeah, that's awesome. And what is it? What has it been like working with Emil Heskey? A Premier League legend, and as a Liverpool fan, for you, that must be doubly special because he obviously played for us as well.
Yeah, it was actually funny because you're in a work environment, you're trying to be professional. I didn't even mention that I was a Liverpool fan. I didn't talk to him for the first 2 hours of that day. We obviously were together all day, but the first 2 hours, I acted like I didn't even know who he was. Do you know what I mean? Everything super
Overcorrecting.
professional.
You tried to overcorrect.
Yeah, I didn't. I waited for him to introduce himself. He said, "Hi, I'm Emil." I said, "Hi, I'm Waheed." No problem. We just talked, and then after, I just had to drop the ball and say, "Look, man, like when I was 8, 9 growing up, you were like up front with Michael Owen or Robbie Fowler. Like it's crazy that we're working together." Um, but he's amazing in the sense of really down to earth. He's quite new into his coaching journey, so he's going through his qualifications and stuff, and he's quite happy to sort of ask questions as well. So I go to Emil all the time for support, talking to him about sort of what's it like at that level of the game. What do the players think? How do they sort of engage with things, you know? But equally, he's happy to sort of talk about session design, session practice, which for me is really humbling, you know. But I appreciate that we can have that sort of relationship. I think that's really, really important. So yeah, it's lovely working with him, and we bounce off each other really well.
Yeah, that's awesome to hear, man. And then I think people would be really curious to know, and I'm curious to know as well. What does a regular day look like for you working at Leicester City? Day in the life.
Yeah, yeah. So we get in for about 8:30. So 8:30, we have the breakfast is available, and then we have like a team brief. So the coaches, the analysts, the strength and conditioning guys, physio, they all come together for a meeting, and we'll talk about the players who will be in. So we'll do a register. If there's any players who we know are off because they're injured or they're sick or whatever it might be, we sort of run through all those sort of operational things at the beginning. The strength and conditioning guys will talk to us about player load, so how intense the session can be. And we talk about it in spaces. So can we use big spaces to train? So full pitch, 3/4 of a pitch, or do we do things in smaller spaces? So they let us know all those things in the morning based on when the game is and all those sort of things that will affect it. Physio will run us through any players who cannot have contact, so those who have to be contact free in sessions. And then we talk a little bit about what the focus for the players will be for the day and for the week. I'm not there full time, but obviously the program is full time, so I sort of come into it sometimes midway through ideas, and I just have to pick it up wherever it sort of is. But so we have that brief in the morning, and then players will be having breakfast along that time as well. And then the first session is at 10 o'clock. So 10 o'clock, we're out about 9:30, we're set up, and then the players come out and they'll start with the S&C coach, they'll do their warm-ups, and then they come into us. We'll do about an hour and a half session before lunch. Then we have our lunch. Sometimes we have a double session. So there's only one team training session a day, but sometimes they'll put a double session on where there'll be like what they call individual learning plans or individual development plans. Players will come back out, those who need a second session, and they'll do more technical work, more unopposed technical things. So smaller groups, really focusing on their personal areas of growth. Then we'll come back in and go straight into analysis. So we'll have the analysis room, and the players will come and present footage to us on how they've done in the last few games, again linked to their individual learning plan. So if their learning plan has these 5 or 6 targets, they need to try and pull footage themselves to evidence if they've been improving at that or not, or how it goes. So, and then it gives us a chance to talk a little bit more. That's the day. As you can see, it's like one after the other. It just goes boom, boom,
It's
boom,
crazy,
boom,
and
boom.
it's very interesting because obviously I'm also involved in like the technical side for Karachi United, so it's quite interesting. Like I had two questions. One is you mentioned that some players come out for a double session and then they do technical unopposed work. So
Yeah.
how does like the coaching staff select which players are gonna be the ones who are gonna do the second session? Is that like something that you maybe based on the first session see, or maybe this player needs certain technical work um, or something
So
like that?
that, yeah, good question. So they have these individual learning plans which are for the season, and it every 10 weeks they have like a review of that, which is where they go in the tactics room and they show us some of their footage, and we discuss how their planning has been going. But on that plan, it will have sort of development areas that are skill based, tactical, physical, and technical. So we already have an idea of what the areas of development are. In terms of going out, all the it will depend on physical load. So if a player is injured or contact free, or if they've played 2 matches in a week, they probably won't come out. So they'll just tell us based on that. Sometimes the players will train up at the under 21 level, or they might drop down to under 16 level. But there's various things that might affect it. But if they're fit, healthy, they'll come out we will just work. We'll tailor the session based on the players we have, as opposed
Yeah.
to we're going to put this on for this player specifically. It's sort of a bit like that.
Yeah, I get it. And it's also interesting that the players present the video analysis because that's a nice way to sort of also get the buy-in from the players, but also a buy-in in the sense that they are also involved in the whole process. But it also, I think, is an interesting way to bounce ideas off one another, like not just the coaching staff telling the players what's what, it's also the players being involved, and you can bounce ideas off one another and see what's what. And that's really interesting. But also, I think generally, obviously, under 18 level is like you're not that focused on competition as you would
Mm,
obviously in the pro team, but they do
yeah,
play the under 18 Premier League, right?
yeah.
And how much focus? So probably for people who might not know, I'm just asking how much focus does the competition or does the weekend game or something have on training as opposed to their overall development in the macro scheme?
Again, a good question. Um, it really depends on the ethos of the club and the coach. Most coaches at that level, the league position matters. It's sort of a grey area, because when you get to under 18, we're starting to think about winning games, because performance is not a long way away, like getting to first team level, etc. Each club's different. Some clubs will say, still at under 18 level, they're still too young to worry exactly just about
Yeah.
competition. So Leicester's like that. So with us, we spend one session just before on the Friday. We'll do tactical work based on shape, based on the opposition and the opposition analysis. We still have the analysts provide feedback on the opposition, but the analyst will only watch one game, the most recent one. Whereas the under 21s analyst, they watch three. So you can see it's not as
Yeah,
important to us.
prioritization. Yeah.
Yeah. So for the head coach of the under 18s, Adam, he's the competition doesn't matter to him at all. It's very low in the priority, which I think is brave, because it's easy to look at someone and say, I mean, in the time I was there, we spent most of the time bottom or second from bottom. For ads, it didn't matter, but you have to be quite brave to disregard that and just worry about development. His track record speaks itself for development. He's produced so many players who've gone on to either under 18s England, or but also gone into the under 21s. So many of his players have gone through. We've even seen one in the first team as well. So
Is that
he's
Drewsbury Hall?
so there's been a lot, but under ads, it's how I'm mind blank now.
Okay.
Will Alves, yeah. So he started he made some first team appearances. He came through the setup while ads was there. But plenty have gone on to the under 21s and have made first team appearances in friendlies and stuff like that as well. So he's very good at what he does. But again, you have to be brave.
Yeah, and like one other thing that I was interested about was so I've heard that in certain clubs, there obviously in the academy there's like a curriculum given, so like
Yeah.
drills are provided, and you have to like you can use them as a way to deliver the sessions.
Mm.
Were you also like provided certain, I don't know, structure in terms of drill designs, or were you all did you actively have to design drills, or did you actively design drills while you were working with them?
Yeah. I design my own practices. All the coaches design their own practices. There is a syllabus, and I think it's done the right way. You're told sort of principally what stage of development each age group should be at and what sort of their focus should be. So, for example, when you're in the foundation phase, so sort of under 7, under 8, under 9, there's a heavy technical focus for individuals. But as you move towards maybe 13, 14s, you start thinking about unit play. So you might start thinking about how a midfield connect together. So
Yeah.
not just me and my ball, but also relationships with nearby teammates. And with that, obviously, you start increasing the tactical emphasis of development, not just the technical. So that sort of is the scale we work by. But I like that because you're sort of allowed to express yourself, but within a broader sort of model, if you like.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So they give you the
Um,
general game model, and then they're like, okay, you
exactly.
can design your drill based on those
Yeah,
principles.
absolutely that. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, yeah, perfect. And yeah, I just wanted to ask any players that people should look out for in the future coming through at Leicester City.
There's a yeah, there's a few lads who in our under 18s have shown quite a lot of promise. I would say our right back, he came from Man City this season. He's physically he's still quite young, but technically he's incredible. So he handles himself at the level that he's not as physical as other players yet. So I think when he has that sort of maturation, where he becomes a bit more physically mature, I think he'll just blow up as a player. So his name's Jaden. I think he'll go on to do good things.
Yeah, awesome. And just lastly on Leicester City, what would you say are the main learnings that you've taken from your time there?
I think I've picked up some really niche technical details. So I do. I think I've worked very hard over the years to sort of learn that um, in the roles I've had in the past. And when I've gone to Leicester, I feel that I felt like it took me a while to get comfortable. So at the beginning, I was a bit like, the observation skills of being a good coach. I think observation skills are probably one of the hardest traits to learn as a coach. It's easy to sort of list coaching points off of a sheet that you've written down, but to actually see it live in game, I struggled with that at the beginning a bit. It was actually quite frustrating. But I got my eye in, and I felt like I really had an influence towards the end of the season, if you like, in terms of things I noticed in game. I noticed things in game. I'd go and clip it for ads, and then I'd present it to him. And I thought that's when I started feeling, a bit more a part of it, if you like. So I definitely think that there's, from an observation point of view, there's lots I started to sort of develop. And then really little niche things. I think my technical knowledge is pretty sound. That I think from what I was watching of sessions, I felt like, yeah, this is not new to me. But there were little things, really niche little things, sort of like marking positions, things that maybe are a bit more detailed, aren't maybe discussed as much. A few of those sort of things I listed, I've taken notes, and they're the little gems that I've taken away from it, I think.
Awesome. And yeah, I think moving on to your coaching journey and how you got to this point, you mentioned that you got into coaching really young and really early.
Yeah.
How young was it, and how did you get into it? So, like, what was that like?
So when I got to the end of playing, I was 16, and I was playing for Oxford City in the under 18s team. And my cousin runs some football teams uh, it's in Slough, so it's a bit towards London, about half an hour from where I live. He invited me down to help out, just because I was Oxford City. I think everyone makes the assumption that if you can play football, you can coach. It's not true.
Yeah, yeah, of
But
course.
I went there and helped out. So that was my first experience at 16, and I absolutely loved it. I really enjoyed doing that. I At that point, it was a lot of community coaching, so helping at play schemes, so like kids clubs in the holidays, that football team for my cousin, those sort of things is how it started for me. And that was just like summer holiday placements and just a bit of work experience here and there kind of thing. But I really started um, more seriously, if you like, after university. So I went to university 18, finished 21. In that period, I barely touched a football, to be honest. And then when I finished uni, sorry, I started working in an office job in finance. And my very good family friend, she's a teacher at a local school, and she said to me, again, off the back of being at Oxford City, which would have been like 5 years ago by that point, she said, "Do you want to come and help out some PE lessons or physical education lessons?" And I said, "Yeah, no problem." So yeah, these things are written in my. I never had any intention of playing or coaching football when I left university. To be honest, she just said to me, "Do you want to have a go?" And I thought, you know what, I wouldn't mind trying. It was only around the corner from where I was working. So all these things just fit
Yeah,
together
the
really
stars
nicely.
aligned. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So I went there on my lunch break and I did a 2 hour football club, and then I went back to work afterwards and I had to finish work later to make the hours back up. So that's how I started. But the school paid me for the job, and they were paying me the same money I was doing a whole days of work. So I was like, I'm gonna just do this. So I made
Yeah.
it into a business. So I just contacted some more schools. I did my level one at that point, and I thought to myself, I really love doing this. It's much better than sitting behind a desk all day. I struggled to do that, to be honest. And I got 2 or 3 schools. I was just teaching only football. So I was going in and doing football, different schools. I did my level one, did my level two. But that business, alhamdulillah, I still run that now. It's a lot bigger. We have 12 members of staff who
Oh,
work within it,
awesome.
and it's been the catalyst for it's given me the opportunity to coach full time, so I can practice my skills, practice things I learn. But it's also given me the flexibility to do things. I go to Leicester 2 days a week, because if I had any other job, they would never let me disappear,
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
for half the week, So
Again, God's
even
plan,
now,
man. It all makes sense in the end when the pieces come
yeah,
together.
yeah. Honestly, I feel every time I have this conversation, it's just always alhamdulillah. It feels like a blessing. It's quite surreal, really, because yeah, when I left uni, I did biology at university. There was no intention of going back to sport, you know.
Yeah.
Um, but here we are. So
Yeah, here we are, man. Yeah, here's to more success, and here's to you continuing your coaching journey and getting into more places that you didn't expect to when you
yeah,
dropped out of uni. And I think this is
absolutely.
also a good segue because I'm an I'm I've been working part time with Karachi United, and now obviously my like you, I didn't think that I wanted to get into football full time. Like that was my dream.
Yeah.
Same as you, when I realized I wasn't good enough to like make it, and also I was in Pakistan, so that's a double whammy anyway. So and then I was like, oh, it would be cool if I could one day like become a coach or something. But that was just like a dream, because I had no idea in Pakistan how you could do it. I hadn't ever heard of Karachi United and stuff. But then I've got to know about Karachi United. I got to know Kareem and Hamdan, and they taught me a lot, and I'm here. But the point is, even right now, I'm thinking of how to get into it full time. And it's not that I don't have some opportunities in Pakistan. It's just like obviously you also need to think of how to make it financially practical and stuff like that to make it a career. And I think generally, if I were to ask you, what advice or what tips would you give to people in Pakistan who want to become coaches, and also generally for maybe established coaches in Pakistan, how they can maybe get to the UK or abroad and establish themselves as coaches in like a footballing country?
Um, it's quite, like football's tough. Like I've I've did when I the business has been the reason I could explore football for so long. I think because the business has been able to support me financially for me and my family, it's allowed me to, again, that flexibility to try things. But I was at Oxford City Women. I did that role as my first coaching role. That was volunteer. I went to Oxford City Women's first team and became the manager. And we were playing Southampton, we were playing Bournemouth. We played some big teams. I was still a volunteer.
Oh
But
wow.
yeah, but when we played Southampton, it was Southampton Football Club, as in just left the Premier League Southampton. And the manager in the dugout opposite me was Marion Spacey. Marion Spacey was England's number two. So she was assistant manager of England when Mark Sampson was there. She was getting like £60,000 a year or something. I don't know. So I'm in one dugout, she's another. So like, it's just a tough sport. And it's only to now where I get paid. But for 8 years I've travelled across the whole of south of England, going to away games, right to the coast, right into London, hours of travelling, minibus, kit washes, whatever it might be, all of that stuff. But it's only in the last year that actually sort of pay for my work. And actually, this last kind of 4 or 5, in the last sort of 2, 3 weeks, I've been having a few uh, conversations with different clubs about potential roles that are now paid. So there's 8 years of
Yeah,
sort of
it
work,
takes well, yeah.
and this is England, where football's got quite a big budget. Although not quite a big budget, a ridiculous budget, to be honest. Leagues I've worked in last season, players would probably be paid anywhere from sort of £60 for a week to 250, £300. That's the level I'm coaching at last season, which is, if the Premier League is like the top level, it's about 7 leagues down.
Yeah.
And there's still some good money throwing around, but not for the coach. Coach is
Yeah,
expected
yeah.
to do it for free almost, maybe expenses or something. Yeah, so alhamdulillah, the business is why I've been able to do it. If it wasn't for the business and I was just pursuing the career independently, I would really struggle,
Yeah, for
which is
sure.
the sad reality. A big factor for that probably is the volunteer in, like, there's so many volunteers in youth football in the grassroots level. So I think because in America it's different. So in America, what parents pay per child to play in the grassroots leagues is like trip, probably like 5, 6, 7 times.
Yeah, because I think the difference there is because in the UK there's an established grassroots structure which is like organic. It comes from the community, and in
Yeah,
America it's mostly like there's no pyramid structure. It's like high school, college, and stuff like that. That's why
yeah,
parents do more pay to play kind of stuff.
yeah. But what you're finding is coaches from here will go to America to be paid
Yeah, that's
because you
true.
can't. It's so hard to find. So I was speaking to someone not long ago who's from Ireland who lived in America, and he ran like a direct. He was a director of football for a grassroots team. So just grassroots. It's amateur. It's nothing more than grassroots teams here. But the parents are paying $600 a year, $800 a year. Our parents are paying £60 a year. You know, but
Yeah.
I I think that if you want the coaching industry to thrive, so that so that coaches can actually be paid even at these levels that we're referring to, it can't. The problem is someone will always come around and do it for free.
Yeah, yeah.
That's why it's. I think
It's a
that's why it's
race
so
to the
difficult.
bottom. In economics, you say it's a race to the bottom because you're out competing one another and you're cutting the
Yeah,
cost. Yeah, so you just
100%.
go down to the bottom. But yeah, I think it
Yeah.
would be generally. I think it's tough financially everywhere, like especially in Pakistan, because there are very few opportunities. But like, do
Mm.
you think there what pathway would so maybe some promising coaches is like for example, there are a few upcoming coaches in Pakistan who are really promising. What would the pathway be if they wanted to like move out from Pakistan, come to the UK maybe, or get a coaching gig somewhere? Would you think that would be something that could happen? And how would that be?
Well, the way I did it is obviously what we call community coaching. So you go into schools and you teach football via education, via like extracurricular clubs, via holiday camps. Um, that industry has got money to pay full time wages, and that's how I did it. All the staff I employ are on majority are on full time wages, doing what they love to do. And it's not always football. Sometimes it might be multi sports. Sorry, but there's so many transferable skills, and it's a foot in the industry, you know.
For sure, yeah.
So, if I'm not mistaken, there's a coach in Pakistan that I was reading about who went through the same through Barcelona or something. I can't remember who it was now, but I was researching somebody, and they did like a similar sort of community project, but for Barcelona, because I think Atletico
It's
Madrid are
Adil
in.
Risky, I think. Adil Risky
Yeah,
was for Barcelona in
yeah,
Canada.
yeah. So I imagine that was probably like a community program run by Barcelona abroad. I think Atletico Madrid did something as well in
Yeah,
Pakistan.
but in Pakistan, yeah,
Yeah, so those kinds of programs are probably the best way to balance opportunity, delivery, and the financial side of it. at least to
Yeah.
get your foot in the door. You might need to do some extra bits in the evening at like, so what I did is that was like my 9 to 5. And then in the evening, I was doing the Oxford City stuff, or the Reading City, or, the different clubs I worked at. That was all like evening, weekend. And that was important because that was working with like high quality players. But I could afford to do it because in the day I did my other work. But if you want to have lots of goes at delivery, lots of goes at coaching, lots of goes at behavior management, communication skills, observation skills, community coaching is like the most feasible way to achieve that.
Yeah, yeah, no, for sure. I understand. Yeah, or like, yeah, I think like you mentioned, like these clubs are now opening up community centers across the
Yeah,
world. So that's a good way, or just join a business like yours, for example, maybe.
yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah,
for
because
sure.
we are no different to Barcelona in Canada. We just don't have the brand.
Yeah, 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 no,
So
and for someone like me, it's the so it's exactly like you said. What I would be looking for right now is so three things mainly: get foot in the door. Number
mhm,
two, have repetition and repetition of sessions and observation and communication, everything that comes with it, and learn the skill and develop the skills. And number three, to also be make it practical. So obviously you need to put food on the table and stuff like that. You can't just,
yeah,
like go to sleep hungry at night. So I think
yeah.
those three are the important points, and it's I think you've given at least me, and I'm sure everyone else, a lot of clarity about this whole thing, for aspiring coaches, and how to make it probably. And then I think, like you've done so many repetitions, and done so much through community coaching, then once you get to like a place like Leicester City, when you get an opportunity there, then you're able to translate all those skills. And then, like you said, you're in talks to represent more clubs and maybe opportunities there. So yeah, that definitely makes sense.
What you actually asked me a question before about what's one of the biggest things I probably learned about being at Leicester. And actually, I missed something really important is technical knowledge can be learnt. Designing pretty sessions that look appealing on paper is also something you can learn. It's all theory based stuff. Nothing can replicate repetition on the field. So having lots of goes at delivery and being a good person, someone who is able to build relationships, someone that's able to be fair, someone that's able to have charisma. Like you need to be able to build instant trust, instant bonds, instant relationship with players. If you can do that because you come across as, a well rounded, decent person, it's like 80% of the job is done. Someone said to me one time, like being a manager or being a coach is like being a salesman. You have to be able to sell your ideas. And any good salesman is great at being a relationship builder. And speaking to the manager at Leicester, the guy who oversees the coaching for the academy, he said because he had some applicants come in for like interviews, like they did a trial session. He said, "I'm not bothered by how they coach. I'm bothered by how they build relationships, because I'll teach them to coach later, or I'll support their journey."
Yeah,
Because if you have enough time on the grass, you've got experienced people around you who can sort of drip feed you information, techniques. You'll be fine. But you can't teach someone to be charismatic. You can't teach someone to be a good relationship builder. They're the soft skills that,
or a good person, for example. Either
yeah,
you are or you're not. Yeah.
yeah. And that's why community coaching, you can still get so much key things from. I know it's not the elite level, and the players might not be as good, and the facilities might not be as good, but so many fundamental principles that are actually used at the very top level, you can find there and you can develop there.
I think absolutely. Just to before we wrap up, I think you've hit the nail on its head, because I can think of countless examples of, like, firstly, I think you're absolutely right. I think as you progress through the levels, at least, like especially at the pro team level, um, a lot of managers, like for example, De Zerbi was talking about this, Nagelsmann has talked about this, that there comes a point where the intangible, or the people management, or the people related stuff becomes even more important than the tactical stuff, because at the end of the day, it's a people sport. Players are people who are gonna go out and play, and tactics is theory. You can the whiteboard is not gonna play. The magnets are not gonna play. It's gonna be people playing, and that's why people like Carlo Ancelotti have achieved so much success. And even like we talk about how good, for example, Pep is tactically, but he is so good as a charismatic motivator and someone who can get everyone to buy into the idea. It doesn't matter how convinced I am about my idea. It's about how I can convince the players. Again, it's like a
No,
salesperson.
100%.
And then the second thing about repetition and it being glamorous or not. Listen, man, the two of the best coaches that I've seen in Pakistan, on obviously they're my friends, so but that's not why I'm saying it, are Kareem Karai and Sheikh Hamdan. And it's because they have, at this young age, like I think Hamdan is 28, Kareem is 29, 30. They have around 6 to 7 years of coaching experience, like every day on the
Yeah.
grass, every day, double sessions. Sometimes they're taking three sessions in a day. So look at the amount of like the skills that they've developed. It doesn't matter if you're coaching, for example, Messi, or if a 9 year old is standing in front of you, you are developing as a coach as well. And I think it helps more to start from a younger level where you don't have pressure and where you're expected to teach the basics. And speaking of Leicester City, I mean, look, the Brendan Rodgers left the club not that long ago, but you know where he started from. He started from like way down, or like he started his coaching
Yeah.
journey at a very humble level. Look at Graham Potter. He started at Leeds Metropolitan University or something, I think,
Hmm.
and that was
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
even like a proper division in English football. So
No.
yeah, man, I think nothing beats repetition. So you're spot on there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the other good thing about repetition is opportunities to fail, opportunities to make mistakes. Because another key thing that has helped me as a coach is reflections after sessions. This didn't go well. Sometimes we expect players to behave a certain way in our practices, and they don't. And then you've got to. Sometimes players are cheating, so sometimes they'll on purpose try and cheat the game to win. So little things you have to you don't think of it in your planning stage, but after you've had a go and you tweak it, it will happen next time, you know. And or you thought of some coaching points, but actually some entirely different ones came out that you noticed, and then you know them for next time. The best coaches probably have a handful of session designs and session plans that they use again and again and again, but they've just tweaked it every time. So it's become
Yeah.
incredibly detailed, incredibly tight knit.
Yeah,
So
and
all
then
of
just
that
the
is
little
the
tweaks change
benefits.
the behaviors that they're looking for, or what they're
Yeah,
trying to get out of the players at that given point.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, no, man, this has been an absolutely amazing chat. Sorry I took a lot of time from
No,
you
no
on this
problem. I
Sunday
enjoyed it.
afternoon, but I, for one, thoroughly enjoyed it. I hope all of you have enjoyed it as well. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been Waheed Ramzan, who has started accidentally into coaching, but is now, has got a great portfolio and is on his way up. Maybe, hopefully, inshallah, we're going to see him on our TV screens sometime in the future in the English Premier League.
Inshallah.
But yeah, man, it's been great, and I wish you the best of luck. And thanks for taking out the time once again.
No, thank you so much. You keep doing all your good work. I look forward to seeing more of it.
Yeah, no, it's my pleasure. Ladies and gentlemen, this was Pressing Matters at On the Mic. Until next time, take it easy.